Have you ever heard that phrase, cooking is an art, but baking is a science? Now, I can't say I was ever very good at science, but it turns out I'm a pretty good baker, and I come by it kind of naturally. I love the order. I love the precision. I love to line up all of my ingredients on the counter in my mise en place. That's French. I love the feel. I love the smell. I love giving bakes to people. I love baking, but I've had to learn a lot too, particularly about science, all of those little nuances that make for a really good bake. Things like chemical reactions between ingredients and temperatures. I've had to learn a lot. And one such tidbit is about leavening. Now, a leavening agent is that crucial ingredient like baking soda or baking powder that neutralizes acid and balances flavor, and maybe most importantly, causes air bubbles to form so that the dough or the batter lifts and expands. It causes it to rise. And without that, you don't get that lovely, lush lift, that rise that you're looking for to make a really good bake. And actually, I think that's a pretty good metaphor for prayer. There are so many beautiful things to discover about the Catholic faith. There's so much to love and to learn about Jesus that sometimes we become overwhelmed with all that we don't know. And we want him more. We want more of God, more in prayer. We want to grow. We want to love. And so we adopt all of these different devotions, resources. We read all the books and listen to all the podcasts. And at the end of the day, we end up feeling like maybe we checked all of the boxes, but we never felt connected. Or maybe worse, we have all of these boxes and we're burdened by them because there's no possible way that I can give my time, my attention, my heart to so many different things. And I fall into that too. For me, the quality of my prayer decreases when the quantity of types of prayer increase because my attention is divided, my heart is divided. I naturally want to go very deep, to linger with the Lord. I don't need a lot of quantity. I'm looking for quality. And when we're going wide instead of deep, we just end up with a big, sloppy mess. We're looking for that crucial ingredient. What's that crucial ingredient that causes everything to come together, to work together beautifully, to lift, not only in prayer, but actually out that the fragrance of the bake, wow, I'm really going somewhere with this analogy, would waft out into the world. What is it that makes our prayer life sing? Well, in the words of Jesus, this crucial ingredient, it's the one thing. And I'm referring to Luke chapter 10, when Jesus visits his friends Martha and Mary. They're the sisters of Lazarus. And they're hosting a party for him, a dinner. And Martha is in the kitchen. Maybe you know this story. Martha's preparing all of the things for all of the people. And I'm sure this is coming from a place of wanting to serve Jesus, to serve the disciples. But she's overwhelmed. She's burdened by how much there is to do. And she's away from Jesus, preparing things for Jesus, apart from Jesus. Now, where's her sister Mary? Well, she's sitting at the feet of Jesus, looking at him, listening to him. I think it's safe to say that Mary was loving him. Now, Martha's loving him too, but in kind of a chaotic, a busy way. And she comes to Jesus. She's frustrated. She says, Jesus, tell her to help me. And what does he say to Martha? This is verse 41. Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her. There is need of only one thing in prayer. Jesus is only looking for one thing. There's one crucial ingredient, one thing that makes prayer work, and it's love. It's attention. You could argue that love is attention, is paying attention to the one that we love. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like sitting at his feet, looking at him, listening to him. That's our model for prayer, relationship. That's our model for prayer, intimate relationship. What do I mean by that? I mean, it's mutual. It's reciprocal. Jesus is looking at Mary too, listening to Mary too. If not in words, we don't read those in the gospel, surely in his heart, there's an exchange of attention and an exchange, a reciprocal exchange of love happening. And that is prayer, this dynamic, loving relationship. And I believe this is the desire of every human heart. That's what we're looking for when we're doing all of the things and we want to learn all of the things and take advantage of all of the opportunities and resources and groups. It's because of love. But let's focus our hearts on love himself, on the person of Jesus, because that's what's happening in prayer. We're talking to, looking at, paying attention to, loving a living person. And it's a personal love. Personal because it's intentional. Personal as in curious. Personal is detailed. It's focused. It's attentive. And that's very hard to do when we're doing all of the things. We forget to look at the person because we're so busy checking all of the boxes. Now, I want to make an important distinction here. And I think sometimes where we get overwhelmed with doing too much or not knowing which devotions or to do or books to read, where we can get, there's a tension, right? And we can become frustrated, is I think just a simple matter of confusion. I think at times we're confusing formation with prayer. Okay, formation is necessary. It's important. Again, there's so much to learn and God forms us intellectually, and for many of you that's a great way that you connect with God in being set aflame with love in your intellect. But there's another step. It's not just the reading, it's not just the listening, it's not just the learning. That has to translate into love. To turn away from the text and turn to the person. So if you're listening to Bible in a year and you learn something was new or interesting, we want to train ourselves to just pivot, to turn in our hearts and say to the Lord, I didn't know that, Jesus. I'm so excited about that. That makes my heart burn, God. You're so detailed, Lord. Thank you for showing me that. We want to turn it into relationship. This is where formation becomes prayer, is that it's the fodder for prayer. This is the kindling to this encounter with the fire of the Holy Spirit. But we've got to take it to the next step. We've got to follow it through to its natural end, which is relationship. If we're taking formation alone and calling it our prayer time, it's going to fall short because we're interacting with a book or a podcast or a text rather than with a living person. So the key to this, to turning formation into prayer, is to honestly and vulnerably relate your heart to God. I didn't like that, God. Oh, that brought something up for me. And I don't know if I agree with that, Jesus. Would you show me? Would you help me? I'm frustrated because this. I want to turn everything into conversation with God. And secondly, I think where we can get kind of stuck, where our recipe of prayer falls short, right? We're not being lifted necessarily, is when devotional prayer is devoid of that personal love. We can still be doing all of the right things, these beautiful, powerful prayers of the church, prayers that have been passed on for generations. How about this? The rosary. I pray a daily rosary. I love Our Lady. But have you ever prayed the rosary and then you finish it and you think, did I just pray the rosary? Sometimes I get to the end of the day and I think, I don't know if I prayed the rosary. And I think, no, I did. But you know, if I'm honest, I said the rosary. I didn't pray. I wasn't with Jesus. I wasn't looking at Jesus, meditating on the mysteries of his life. I wasn't praying in union with Our Lady, drawing closer to Jesus. And that's not to say there isn't grace in all prayer, but what I'm wanting for you is I'm wanting that leavening agent that's going to come in and going to make all of your prayer, your devotions sing. And that special ingredient is love. St. Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, this is verse 1. He is really laying it out. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. We are nothing without love. All of our service done begrudgingly or resentfully without love is a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. All of our prayers and our doing and our busyness for the Lord, but not with the Lord, talking to the Lord, that's a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. The measure is love. The aim is love. The ingredient is love. Love is everything. Love is all that matters because Jesus is love himself. So in prayer, remember that we're praying to a person, talking to a person, looking at a person. We can look at him in the Blessed Sacrament. We can lay eyes upon his Eucharistic face in adoration. I want you in prayer, most importantly, to look at Jesus and to let him look at you. Now, it's very different than having all of the books, all of the things. It's actually about doing less so that we can be more present to the Lord. So here are some prompts for prayer. What do you love about the Lord? Tell him. Is it his faithfulness? His kindness? Is it how mind-bogglingly detailed he is? Is it that he's so fun and lighthearted? Is it that he saved you? Tell him what you love about him. Look at him, talk to him, and love him. And then maybe press in a little bit deeper and ask him, what do you love about me? I want you to experience that connection that comes in intimate relationship, which is prayer. So sit with him at his feet in Eucharistic adoration. You can look upon his Eucharistic face in love, and you can receive his look of love in adoration. Love him and let him love you. And that is the perfect recipe for prayer.